let's jump into that. Let's talk about the schedule a little bit quickly, and then we'll jump out of here. That Florida State game, week 1, from my perspective, we've been talking about that for years, and now we're talking about it for a different reason, coming off of 2-10. We were talking about this off air before we even got going. We almost had a podcast before the podcast started, which, next time I should just hit record as soon as we get on here, because we jump into things before things even get going. But some of what we were talking about, and at least from my perspective, literally covering Florida State every single day, is I don't know what the heck this team's going to be. I don't even know how Alabama prepares for this. Yeah, you can go look at some Gus stuff at UCF and try to think that he's going to, pull some of that out and some of the stuff that he's had success with in the past. You can look at what he's done with mobile quarterbacks and try and do some of that. But man, you're watching Castellanos from 2 years ago at BC, I'm sure, if you're Bama. But I don't know. To me, it's more Bama just taking care of what they need to take care of as opposed to scouting the other team, though I know they'll try and do that some. But and I know they've seen Squirrel White, and there's some familiarity with some different positions. I'd expect that, Roy Dell probably has a big part in the rushing attack. And so there is some familiarity. Maybe Earl Little plays a little bit in the back end. So you kind of know some of what's there. But now I don't even know how you project what Florida State is week 1. You're still going on the road. It is still going to be a sold out Doak Campbell Stadium. There's still going to be a lot of excitement welcoming Alabama in. But man, Florida State's the biggest enigma in college football this year to me.
Well, they are. I mean, Gus has always been a creature of habit. So Castellanos seems to fit the mold of what he'd want his quarterback to be, which is extremely mobile, being able to run the zone read, being able to do the RPO game, throwing the football. I actually was really impressed with Castellanos. I'm sure you were too. I watched that game when they came to Tallahassee and beat Florida State. And so he wants that style of QB, no doubt about it. The offensive line was really bad for Florida State last year. He's got his guys with him. I think a lot of that offensive staff that came to FSU, I think that, it was heavy-handed with Gus wanting certain people coming in, and so it's going to be really fascinating to watch. There's no doubt about it. And Kalen DeBoer needs to win that game, especially with how poorly Alabama looked in the bowl game against Michigan with all those guys sitting out. They put themselves in position 15 yards from the end zone to find a way to still win an ugly game, which fans would have still been bothered, but winning cures all. So if you win, everybody's, at least, well, you won 10 games, that streak continued. You'd have that in your back pocket, but he didn't. And so they really need to beat Florida State. They need to handle it, no doubt about it. And, the key is going to be the offensive and defensive lines. Alabama's got a lot of injuries right now on their offensive line. They don't have a lot of depth at offensive tackle. Caden Proctor's basically taking the spring off from contact for contact purposes. I will tell you this. Remember this name, though. He's from Carmel, California. He's a 5-star, number 78, Jackson Lloyd. He could end up, potentially making a run, maybe even at the right tackle job, even though I think Wilkin Formby's probably going to do that. Alabama's got a really good center back in Parker Brailsford. Jaden Roberts should be healthy at right guard. The one competition they have going along the offensive line is at left guard, where Tyler Booker is moved on to the NFL to be a first or a second round draft choice. Gino Vandermark, the transfer from Michigan State's probably first team right now, but they got Cam Dewberry, a transfer from Texas A&M, and then Michael Carroll, a 5-star from IMG Academy. I think they believe they're going to be better, though, on the offensive line, but you really need to get off to a good start because it's another difficult schedule. I mean, you got road trips to Georgia. You got road trips to other difficult SEC level opponents. There's no doubt about it. To me, just looking at the schedule, I was familiarizing myself with it. I mean, you got Wisconsin coming into your place, but I still think they're going to be better. Like I said, you got to go to Missouri. Missouri is very dangerous. But the most dangerous of all, and it ended up being a game nobody expected last year that went to the wire, and they're probably going to be a top 10 team in the preseason of all things, is South Carolina. They got to go to Williams-Brice Stadium. Shane Beamer has, completely flipped that. I know they didn't win their bowl game, but their fans are off the wall right now. Lenora Sellers will be going into his first full year, or second full year, because he did start the first game, but he's going to be in his second year as a starting quarterback in the SEC, and he's got a very familiar name to Alabama fans calling the plays. That's Mike Shula. who's back in college football full time on the field as the offensive coordinator and QB coach. So you got to play Tennessee at home, LSU at home, and then Oklahoma, and then you got the road trip to Auburn, which is never going to be easy because Auburn, Hugh Freeze is under some pressure. He does need to win in year 3 and turn it around because they've had 4 straight losing seasons, 2 straight under his leadership, and they're not going to be able to handle losing to Alabama, a whole lot. That's not going to stick. That's going to kind of stick in their craw. So Alabama's still got a difficult schedule, but getting off to a good start against Florida State and Tallahassee's paramount. And then just the way Alabama looks. Do they look prepared? Do they look good? They looked good at the start of last year when they beat Georgia at home. But then as the year wore on, the quarterback play was so spotty, and I think they had some leadership issues, some locker room issues, and I know they were trying to keep it together. But this year for Kalen DeBoer is important because I think what he needs to do is the team needs to look like what he wants it to with his coaches. He's made some changes with more his guys from the standpoint of the style of player he wants. The style of play needs to be cleaner and different, like what we saw at Washington. And quite frankly, I don't know about winning the SEC championship, but he needs to get to the college football playoff because to me, the SEC is a 3 or 4 bid league, and Alabama needs to be there if he wants to stay off the hot seat. That's just the climate we live in today.
Yeah, it feels like the schedule, quickly, Bama fans or fans of any team that may be watching this, make sure that you are remembering Alumni Hall when you're gearing up for spring football or spring sports all over, whether that be an elite basketball team, a really good baseball team, a good softball team. No matter what sport or team you're supporting across Alabama athletics, make sure that you are doing so with gear and clothing from Alumni Hall. CFA 15, that's CFA for College Football Addiction, will save you 15% at Alumni Hall, either in store, located in the Huntsville or Tuscaloosa locations, or online at alumnihall.com. They have the best and largest selection of officially licensed game day gear, brands like Nike, Champion, New Era, Peter Millar, and more. Bama fans, Alumni Hall is your official shopping destination, and I appreciate their support on this video. It's difficult, like you said, but probably manageable. I think there's just so many questions, not just at Alabama, but at a lot of the programs that Alabama is going to play against. You talk about the UGA game. Well, can Kirby get that monkey off of his back? I know he got the one, but can he finally overcome? And then what's their quarterback situation look like? Like, is Gunner really the guy? I mean, that's really what that could come down to. You mentioned Wisconsin. I mean, again, we're talking about coaches under pressure. Fickell needs to win. They just extended him. And they've got a very difficult schedule. I certainly am not going to pick them to go into Tuscaloosa and win that game. But that's a game where you're going to have a Wisconsin team fighting with everything they have. Can Aiden do enough to keep them competitive? Obviously, I never thought I'd do a Bama preview in March and even mention the Vanderbilt game, but for the reasons that happened last year,
there's more Diego Pavia. There you go. I mean,
for the reasons of last year, Bama fans are going to, for the first time maybe in their lives, circle the Vandy game, at home to be able to feel that payback. What kind of leap does Tennessee make? Right? Does Nico make a leap in his second full year? LSU, I'm not, and I know Alabama has typically owned LSU when they've come to Tuscaloosa. I think Brian Kelly's under pressure.
Yeah,
and they've got Nussmeier. I'm not as sold on Nussmeier as a lot of people are. But if he does just take a small step, I will be, and the rest of the college football world will be. And then you mentioned the last 2 big ones, the Oklahoma game that you think about with.
We don't know. They're like Florida State and Alabama. We don't, because I definitely think Venables is on the hot seat.
Yes, absolutely. He's on the hot seat. He's probably got the hottest seat in the SEC because of the expectations there. I know Pittman and Napier are probably somewhere around there. And I think Mateer is probably the best quarterback that went in the portal. So, how quickly can that, translate? Their defense is still probably going to be really good. And then things get weird at Auburn, right? But what if you play LSU and they've already, as challenging as I just set that up, what if you play LSU and they've already mailed it in, right? The talks are, maybe you play Oklahoma and they've already mailed it in, right? At the end of the day, no, nobody mails it in against Bama. You always kind of get up for those games. But though we could be talking about teams that have sold at that point. Auburn's never going to mail it in when they're playing at home on the Plains. But I mean, we could already know that Hugh Freeze is done by the time that game happens, right? And so it's almost a weird schedule because it could be you could be fighting a lot of teams that have everything to play for, or a lot of teams on that back end of that schedule that don't have. It's such a weird schedule to me. One that could, like, again, we think it's going to be really favorable with, man, you get Florida State coming off a 2-10, but who the heck knows, man? Who knows? And you get Auburn on the road. Well, that looks tough, but maybe it's not at the end of the year. So yeah, Alabama's schedule could end up being like one that you just look back at and you're like, holy cow, how did they get through this? Or one that you're like, man, this really worked out well for us. And yeah, again, that's why we're talking about it here in late March, because it is so interesting to see how it'll all play out for them.
Well, they need to be 3-0 going into the bye. They get 2 weeks to prepare for Georgia. Georgia will be a hornet's nest in Athens. Like you said, Kirby's only won one time against Alabama in his career, and he beat Saban once. He hasn't beaten DeBoer, so we'll see. And now this will be, I think, the first time that Kirby in his career has gotten Alabama in Athens, though, and they've been really, really tough, at home. So that'll be another litmus test for DeBoer. Can you go in there and do what he did in the Pac-12, and that's beat Oregon? He beat Dan Lanning, who's considered one of the best young coaches in the country. He beat Sark, but he beat Dan Lanning in Eugene. So can he take his Alabama team and make a huge statement and beat Georgia again? And if he does that, Kirby's not going to be feeling heat because, look, he'll get criticized, but Kirby's got a lot of equity built up with 2 championships. Now, the arrests need to stop. He needs to, clean that stuff up. But certainly now, but he will start to hear it from the fans if he can't beat Alabama. Now, he did handle Texas twice last year. Don't forget that. I still think they were a quarterback injury away with Carson Beck of playing for the national championship, even though I don't think it was one of his vintage teams. So I'm going to be really interested to see how that all plays itself out. But Alabama, to be where they need to be and have Kalen DeBoer, where everybody's thinking he's starting to get the ship right, they need to win the first 3 games, which, of course, as we said, involves 2 of them. It's going to be Florida State, then ULM, and then Wisconsin. Then you get a bye and you go to Georgia. Alabama needs to be 3-0, ranked in the top 10 in the country when they're headed to UGA for College Game Day and the rest of the circus to be there.
Yeah, I was in Tuscaloosa for that one last year, and I've already kind of looked and mapped out what the schedule looks like for that UGA game. I'm never been to Athens.
It was the loudest football game I've ever been to. I was in the stands.
Oh, bro,
it was nuts.
It was absurd. And, to go the highs and lows, right? To, first half, we're winning the national title. To second half, you're like, hey, guys, what are we doing? To then come down and take the lead, and then Beck drive them all the way down. And you think, shoot, we're going to lose it again. And, yeah, it was one of the most fun games I've ever been to in my life, like without a doubt. And I think anybody watching would say the same thing. Drew, I appreciate your time, man. Where can people follow you? Where can they find you, bud?
Yeah, they can find me on X at DrewD977ESPN. Our station is 977ESPN. And then our SoundCloud page for my daily show, which is Talking Ball with myself and Scott Tyson, 7 to 9 a.m. Central, 8 to 10 Eastern, your time. But they can find that at 97.7 The Zone, and 977ESPN.com is where our website is, where you can find all our content. But we always love talking football and even a little hoops today with you, TJ.
Yeah.
I'm sure as at the end of spring practice, then on into the summer, as we get closer to Florida State, Alabama, and the opener, we'll be on again with you. But we always appreciate the time.
No, man, it's always fun. I truly do feel like we're just at a bar talking ball when no pun intended, when we do this. So no, I appreciate you a ton, man, and good luck on Saturday night, man.
Appreciate it, man.
Cool. Alabama fans, this wasn't our only content with Drew. We have other segments that are either dropping or have dropped. So do me a favor, hit the subscribe button right now. Subscribe also on audio podcasts. You can listen to the entire interview in one sitting, and then stay tuned for more coming with Drew very soon.